Yo, what is up, guys? I am Josh, and this is hashtag LifeChoices.
I am Anath. This is the podcast where we aim to help you make the best life choices.
And I'm David, here to welcome you to Situational Saturdays.
Lastly, I am Lem, and this is our weekly segment where we talk about different situations we face in life.
We take both real and hypothetical situations from you guys and ask each other, if you were in this situation, what would you do? And today, our situation is something that we all face or all have faced in our lives. And maybe you're encountering midlife crisis. You could also probably relate to this. Our situation today is about a college student, fourth year college and graduating. At this point in time, he is not sure what he wants to pursue in life. And he's asking us the question, how do I determine my passion? I think that is a buzzword right now when it comes to career passion. You have to do something you're passionate about. And now this person is asking, I don't really know what to do. How do I determine my passion? So that is our discussion today.
I'm going to start this off by saying that just because you're studying a certain thing in college doesn't mean that you need to pursue that field directly.
Yes.
I remember sitting
true.
in a math class one day and my teacher was giving us advice. This was in high school, giving us advice about college. And he was saying, the name of your degree, the title of your degree doesn't often matter in what job you get in the future. And he decided to choose the example of a philosophy degree. No offense to anyone doing a philosophy degree, but my teacher said he had many friends who had taken a philosophy major, and he defined it as the most useless degree. But this person who had got a philosophy degree was now very successful in the corporate world. I hope that makes you realize that you don't have to have a business degree to work in corporate, for example, or you don't need other types of degrees that only focus on one industry in the world. Degrees help us learn, it helps us gain knowledge, and it shows future employers that you have the ability to learn and to gain knowledge. And employers don't often look at what the name of your degree is, they just want to know that you have a degree. So don't feel restricted about what you can do in the future because you studied a certain thing in college. You have freedom and you've got to base your decisions on what you like to do.
And that's actually true because my job right now is I'm a senior high school teacher and a marketing head. And what I took up in college is accountancy, business ad and accountancy. And so I'm actually not teaching anything related to business right now. What I'm teaching is in social sciences. So that's crazy because it's not something that I spent years on teaching at, but the training that I got from college, now that was really useful for the future that's in store for me.
Yeah, and I think it's good you brought this up because people who are looking for their passions might actually exclude certain things because they think that they can't reach that. Because say, for example, somebody's very interested, they wouldn't call it the passion yet, in business, but they're thinking, how can that be my passion? My degree is in philosophy. I probably can't delve into that. But it's perfect what you guys are saying, that you don't box yourself in the things that are within your reach, because maybe there are things that aren't within your reach that you're actually very passionate about. There are a lot of people like this that developed careers coming from things that don't particularly relate to that. Like you said, you're a CPA and you ended up teaching. There are a lot of people like this. My mom is a psychology major, but she's in business. And it's not just the course, it's how you apply those things. So core concepts. Say, for example, I took management. I should be running a business. And I tried, but there were a lot of struggles along the way. But those things didn't leave me. A lot of the things I learned in management, I'm able to share here as principles we can apply in life. And I could apply that to like organizing the podcast, organizing my schedule, because it doesn't end there. So when you're looking for your passion, I think that's a good first point. Don't box yourself in by what's within your reach.
And let me just backtrack our discussion to another angle of the question. This is a very personal thing I'd like to share. When I was streaking through my elementary and high school life, I don't really have a passion per se. My mindset was like, I just have to get good grades and pass. And by the time I got the forms for the college entrance exam, I was kind of stumped. It's like, hey, okay, what do I like to do? I like to write, but am I passionate about it? That's something I don't quite feel, it's not to that level yet. So I guess my practical advice for you is, if at that point you haven't found your passion, don't fret, because I fretted and I was like, what am I going to do? So I just put random courses. And I think it works out well in a sense that when you get to college, you're exposed to so many different fields at once. In my university, I was blessed to have a very diverse and multidisciplinary campus. So it's not just a business school per se. It's the campus shares its grounds with all the sciences, the social sciences, all the humanities as well. So I was able to see all the possibilities of where I could, find a passion in what field in particular. And it also helps to be exposed to your peers who are passionate about things. We have this system here, at least in our place, called organizations. And what you can do is get involved in a lot of different things to see if that's where your passion lies. Because if you're just boxed in where you are, like what Einath mentioned in your particular course, you're not going to see the different places you could possibly go to start a career where you're passionate for. I remember in college, I was in a business degree, but then I got the chance to volunteer to teach in an orphanage. And I took it. I just wanted to see what it was like to interact with the kids. And I personally wanted to make an impact at least one time. But I ended up staying until today because I discovered a passion for teaching. So that's the thing. If you're where you are right now and you can't find your passion, try to go out of where you are just to see the different areas, the different fields where your passion could lie.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the biggest tips that you can give someone that's looking for their passion. They need to learn to step out of what they're comfortable and try new things. This reminds me of a book, Grit by Angela Duckworth. I've brought this up a couple times before, but basically she outlines 4 steps or 4 things that you can try to do when trying to determine your passion. And the thing is, she actually makes a distinction that you don't find your passion, you nurture it. It's not just something you stumble upon and hey, look, I found my passion. It's not like that. There's a process to it, and then once you have something that seems like your passion, you nurture it. So there are 4 steps. It's not really steps, there are 4 options of how you can go about it. So first is interest. See what you're interested in and try to pursue something similar to a career in it. So say for example, you're very enthusiastic about business, and I keep talking about business because that's all our backgrounds, but basically you're enthusiastic about business. Try maybe having like a garage sale, try selling something to your friends and see if this is something that works for you, and then you can nurture that after. So that's the first thing, interest. Try to find your passion based on your interest. Second thing is that you need to practice, because sometimes your passion might not even be in something that you liked in the beginning. There are a lot of people right now in fields wherein that wasn't their interest, but because they practiced, they actually came to like it. Like me, I wanted to be in business, but when I got thrown into broadcasting on the radio, I was like, okay, sure, let me give this a shot. And then once I was actually there, I started practicing and I was able to nurture it to become my passion. There are some basketball players that actually started playing basketball at ages of 16, 17 before they declare for the NBA draft. So that is very old already, but because they started practicing and nurturing it, it might not have been their interest at birth, but because they practiced, they were able to develop it. So that's the second one. The third is purpose. Sometimes we are limited by what we want to pursue because we feel like it doesn't have a purpose or it doesn't have a greater calling. And it brings me to this story about this NASA employee. So this NASA employee was asked, what is it that you do for NASA? He responds by saying, I'm helping put a man on the moon. And you'd probably think, well, what was his job? Engineer, scientist, researcher, analyst? No, his job was a janitor. Now, why did I bring this up when I was talking about purpose? When you're looking for your passion, you try to look for things that, if I'm like an aerospace engineer, I could help put a man on the moon. So this is probably what I'm passionate about. But basically, when you're nurturing your passion, you look for purpose greater than the first thing that you see. So say, for example, you're a janitor. You might think, my purpose is to clean floors. But he took it upon himself to look beyond just that and push it further so that his purpose is putting a man on the moon. So when you're looking for your passion and you want to nurture it, you look for purpose. That's something that I always want to tell people that, any job, just you frame your mind the right way, you can find a bigger purpose than what it seems like on the surface. Say, for example, you're a construction worker. You might think, my purpose is to lay this building brick by brick. But actually, say for example, think about the building you're building. What if it's a church? You could say that your purpose is helping further the faith of this church. So by thinking further, you're able to see more purpose in what you do, and that will help you develop your passion. So whatever it is that you're thinking of right now, think of it that way, and maybe you're able to nurture your passion. And the fourth is growth. We never stop growing. We always continue pursuing things. And when we're going into like something new, you always think a mindset of growth, not like, oh dang it, I keep failing. No, you always look that how can I continue growing? Because as you grow, you might eventually find out you're actually passionate about this.
Okay, so I want to bounce off what Lem and Josh said. The first point Josh mentioned was do something you're interested in, but I want to tie that back to what Lem said was do something different. So I want to say that yes, you may have a certain list of things which you're interested in or things that you like, but oftentimes when trying to discover your passions, it's going to be something you didn't know you liked. So that leads me to say, have an open mind and try something you're not interested in, because you might end up liking it. For example, in my life, hiking was something I never liked doing because it was tiring. I had to wake up early in the morning, and I would have rather chosen to stay in and sleep in and not do that. But after someone convinced me to just try it, I did. And now I've fallen in love with hiking because it's a new adventure each time. So don't limit yourself to what you think you like and what you think you're interested in. Do something new. If someone suggests something to you, forget whatever preconceived notion you may have had about it and just try it, because you are going to learn something. You might learn that you really just don't like it, or you may learn that you do like it. So have an open mind and be ready to try something new, because that something new might be the new you.
Yeah, and I think when you're looking into your passion, don't be afraid to fail. I think that's the biggest reminder that I can give you guys. And this is something I'm personally passionate about. If you guys have noticed, I talk a lot about how to respond to failure. And that's because a lot of people, let me correct that. All of us will fail. And it's how you encounter failure that will spell the difference between finding your passion and not. Because a lot of people, they actually are in the field they're passionate about, but they failed, so they backed out of it. Something Mark Zuckerberg said in his commencement speech to Harvard is success is born out of having the freedom to fail. So give yourself that freedom to fail. Give yourself that freedom to fail as you try new things, because as you go through that process, and even though you fail, you might be able to discover that that's what you're passionate about. But say, for example, if Bill Gates backed out of his passion in technology and said, you know what, I keep failing, let me just stop. Then would we have Microsoft as it is today? Same thing with Steve Jobs. He failed so hard, he got kicked out of his company, but he didn't stop going because he was thinking, maybe I'll discover my passion. And maybe at that point he already knew his passion, but you are going through failure. Maybe you'll discover your passion past that failure. Like, say for example, you make it through that failure. You're like, wow, I'm victorious, I'm triumphant over it. And then you realize, hey, I really enjoyed this. Tackling this problem was something that I was really passionate about, and you need to know that.
So I just wanted to share this really cool concept of the intersection of your strengths and your passion. So what happens when you intersect what you love with what the world needs? It's called your mission. What about if you intersect what the world needs with what you can be paid for? We call that your vocation. And what if you connect what you were good at with what you can be paid for? You call that a profession. And what if you can connect what you love with what you are good at? You call that your passion. But what if you connect all these four things: your passion, your mission, your vocation, and your profession? What you love with what the world needs, with what you can be paid for, and with what you are good at. And this is a really cool concept. It's called Ikigai.
What language is that?
I think it's Japanese.
It's Japanese.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Japanese, yeah.
But, this is something good to have. And if you can attain it, it's really good. But the reality is...
Yeah. Actually, I was just about to raise that, David. You mentioned earlier, Josh, that purpose was one of the key component of labeling your passion. Maybe not linking it to what you do at the moment, maybe a janitor, but to direct it to purpose. And that's so relevant, I think, because the reality is not everyone can pursue what they like to do.
Yeah, it's a luxury.
It's a luxury. It's an incredible privilege to be able to pursue your passion. I can think of many examples in my life of people who don't like what they're doing, but they can't leave it because it provides for the family, it pays the bills, and it just keeps them alive. And I don't want to just sound privileged and discount all the people who have that in their life, but that's why I want to tie it so closely with purpose. You can say that I'm a waiter right now, but you can always tie it to I'm feeding my family.
Yes.
So that's the more purposeful label, if that was the most appropriate word.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, I think purpose is important, yeah, but it's also about your perspective, because yes, you may be doing something that wasn't initially your passion, but it feeds the family, it provides for the needs. But at the same time, if your perspective is, I'm doing something I don't like, but I'm feeding my family, that isn't the best perspective to be having. Instead, it ties very closely to the purpose. If my perspective is, I am feeding my family and I will do whatever I have to do to feed my family, then no matter what your job is, no matter what you're doing with life, whether or not it be your passion, you are doing something that matters to you. And having that perspective, shifting it from what I'm doing right now to what the benefit is, changes how you will look at everything in return.
Yeah, and that takes into perspective why you're doing something. And I just want to remind people that your passion is not a career. It's not a particular job description. It's not a title, but your passion is something that you want to keep doing. And what could that be? Like Inath said, it doesn't have to be, let's say, for example, being a waiter. That's not your passion. You're passionate about being able to provide for your family. And whatever way that is, you like doing that because you want to provide for your family. So it's making that distinction with your title and what you want to do.
Actually, it kind of reminds me of what people say in Hollywood. Like if you'd approach the vast majority of maybe someone serving a table and you ask them, what are you up to? And they won't say they're serving tables. They'll say, oh, I'm an actress. I'm just doing this in the meantime.
Yeah.
And that's what I think aligns perfectly with the perspective that Einath was talking about and the purpose that he was elaborating on.
Yeah, I really want to go back. That passion is not a concrete title, not a concrete job description, but it's something that you do. And I want to tie this into something that I learned a few years ago, which is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And if you guys have the time to watch that YouTube video, you should check it out. Just search Start With Why, Simon Sinek. But basically what he's saying there is that there's this golden circle that basically helps you to be able to find your passion. I don't know if he frames it that way, but this is how I'm going to adapt it. So within it, the core of everything is why you do it. So say for example, why are you being a waiter? It's because I want to feed my family. The second thing, the outer circle in that golden circle, is how. How is it that you can achieve your why? And then after that, you go to what. Oftentimes when people look for their passion, they focus on the what. What is it that I can be passionate about? So say, for example, I'm passionate about marketing or something. So they're already looking specifically about business and that career, when in fact they should look at why. And then when you figure out that why, you can more effectively find and nurture your passion. A personal story of mine is that I wanted to get into business. Why did I want to get into business? Because I was watching talks by Jack Ma. If you guys don't know, he's the founder of Alibaba. And he was saying all these things and he was very inspiring. And I was thinking, wow, when you're rich and successful, people listen. My goal wasn't to be rich and successful. My goal was to be able to inspire people. And I thought that my path was through being a businessman and succeeding, when in fact there are other ways to do that, because my passion was not business. My passion was to inspire people. And when I took that into perspective, even if I was thrown to a different field like this one, I know that I can still inspire people through this, and that's what I'm passionate about. And I am able to keep that going because that was what I asked myself. Why do I want to do this? And at this point in time, we just want to wrap things up, and how this quest for passion is something that plagues everybody. I don't think there's one person that was born in this world and say, hey, I know my passion. It's something that we find and nurture. Don't forget, it's find and nurture. When you find something that you seem to be passionate about, you need to be able to learn to grow it, because if you don't, it will all just really be a waste. And wow, we talked about a lot of things.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
Yes, we covered a lot of ground. So maybe I will just run through these recap points really quickly, and then we're going to say goodbye once again. So if you guys weren't listening for the past how many minutes, you zoned out, maybe you're driving and you got into an argument with the car next to you. Yeah, this is the part to listen to. So first, we started by saying don't box yourself in. Don't confine yourself to what your course is, because your passion could be lying outside of it. Go outside from where you are. You need to be able to involve yourself in different things, because with the things you're involved now, you don't know your passion. So maybe you should go and try other things, and maybe you will find it. Next is that you need to nurture your passion. It is not just a matter of finding it, not something you stumble upon, but once you have it, you have to nurture it. And going back to the 4 points that I talked about, you need to check your interests, practice something you're not interested in, find the purpose of what you're doing, and always focus on growth. And this is all encapsulated by saying start with why you're doing something. Let's say, for example, being a waiter. Like, I know we keep talking about it, and like, it is a very noble profession. That is something difficult, and it's
stressful.
Yeah. Yes,
yeah.
it is a stressful job. But just for the sake of the example, let's say, for example, you're being a waiter and you don't really want to be a waiter. Just think of why you're doing it, and that is your passion. Focus on the why and not the how and what. So at this point in time, I just want to thank all the listeners for tuning in and listening to the #LifeChoices podcast. We hope to see you again on Monday for Movie Mondays. But at this point in time, I just want to remind everyone, in this life, we have no choice but to make choices. So choose wisely. See you in the next podcast.